And welcome everybody to another edition, another week. You're back right where you need to be. Southern Wrestling, Hot Topics and News, the podcast, tie in with the new magazine. Again, thank you to everybody that's been buying that sucker on Amazon Kindle. We really appreciate it. And remember, be looking for January 2025, because that is when the winter edition is going to drop. Remember, we're quarterly, guys. Everybody knows who I am at this point. It's me, Cowboy Cliff Rogers, back for another week. Just got off the road, and now you see my guest right over here, the one, the only, the natural born heathen, Jordan Jensen. Jordan, what's up, man?
I'm in this spot, Cliff. It's always good to talk to someone who understands. So I really appreciate it, brother.
Somebody who understands. That's what we all need. You know, we don't.
Like, you're still pretty young into the business, man. I'm a little long in the tooth, but it just seems like from previous conversations that like you were already a man when you got into the business. I was a boy, you know what I mean? I was still really young when I got in. So you being a man when you got in, it's just different, man. The concepts that you already have is just far different, man. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you for that. Yeah. Well, folks, I've talked about Jordan before on the show. He's been in the game a while now. He's primarily based in Texas, but he does like to hit the road. We all do. I first met Jordan, I was like maybe 7 months, maybe a year, about a year into my career. And we took a little road trip down to Beaumont, Texas, to a place called Hurricane Pro. And that is where we first met the natural heathen. And man, I got to say, Hurricane, that was one of those things. Let's talk real quick. When you're real young in the business, you know, there's no magic roadmap. There's no career plan. You just go and just hope for the best.
100%, man.
So that's what we were doing at Hurricane. We were just going, helping set up the ring, put out chairs, pop a little popcorn, do what we could, and then if there was a spot, there you go, kid. You know, so that was
gear, man. Always bring your gear.
Always, yeah. I've literally seen people crushed because they didn't bring it. You know, so
I don't know why you wouldn't. Like, even if I go, I always bring my gear. Not even just like in case there's a spot. It's like if like one of the boys forget something, if they're missing an elbow pad or a knee pad or something. You know what I mean? Like, hey, man, gear's in the car. I'll toss it to you real quick. You know what I mean? Even just being like that, you know what I mean? Like, I've always got my something. Like, I don't think my gear leaves my car. I have it. Obviously, we were talking about my leg earlier, man. I've been out of the game since September. Gear's still in the car. Like, I was at Hurricane just in case. You know what I mean? It's not always just for me. So
there you go. You see that? That's a good friend, folks. That's hard to find in the wrestling game, though. That's a good friend. Man, Jordan, I'm telling you, you really did. You may not realize it. You helped me out a lot because, somebody has to be there to help shake the cobwebs. My trainer was a great guy. He is a great guy. Wrestling changes like the weather, man. I mean, it changes year to year, decade to decade. So you're not going to learn everything in school. You know, you have to get out there and see what's different. And I remember when I first met you, I was kind of going over some things in the ring with a training buddy before the Hurricane show, and you came out there, I'm like, who's this long-haired, handsome guy picking my moveset apart? The next thing you know, I'm like, oh, there's good reason behind it. The next thing you know, we end up working each other in a battle royal together, and man, you talked me through that whole thing, and that was one of the first times I looked like $1 million right there in front of a big audience. I mean, dude, you made my stuff look awesome. So, and I'll never forget that because you were very popular in Beaumont, still are, and I was very new. The fans had only seen me about once over there in that area of the world. And because I'm a Texan, but I was lived a long time in Louisiana, so I'm more of a Louisiana wrestler. So when I get over there, y'all already had this cowboy on the card named Chandler Hopkins. So I come out and they're like, he's not Chandler. And then I remember I start putting the boots to you, and you're a heel, and they don't even care. They're just yelling, going, come on, Jordan, don't let Morgan Wallen do this to you. And I was like, man, that is one of the best heckles I've ever gotten right there, is being called Morgan Wallen.
I do remember. I remember the battle royal because I remember Devontae was in that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And Devontae actually ended up giving me some stiff shots in the corner, and one of the someone in the crowd went, "Hey man, don't take that from Kyler Murray."
Hey, you
And
know,
I audibly laughed in the battle royal. And I remember that battle royal. I remember you and there was another kid. I think his name was Chris. Maybe I think he actually he's one of the UWE guys that came down with you and Devontae. And I mean, I'm mispeaking his name wrong. He was in. I think he's like UWE's like number one contender right now, but he's ill. He's like out of the game.
Austin Andrews.
Austin Andrews. I was thinking it was Chris Austin or something. I'm glad I didn't get his name completely wrong. But yeah, I mean the whole thing with we were all at the beginning of that battle royal, so I think it made sense just for us to work together. You know what I mean? It doesn't help. A lot of those guys hadn't been seen a lot by the Hurricane crowd. So having you guys beat up on each other doesn't really do much, but it's like if you guys can, you know what I mean, if we tussle a little bit and they see us exchanging blows, you know what I mean, it just automatically puts you something to them. Like, oh, we've seen Jordan do this all the time, you know what I mean? But to see, Cliff Rogers and Jordan Jensen go at it, it's different, you know what I mean? It's just something that they hadn't seen before. So it's really exciting to get to do stuff like that.
I've kind of formulated this little theory on my own here, and you can probably confirm it. Battle royals, some people look down on it. They're like, oh, I'm in a big 30-man cluster. I'm not going to get to do much. But that is sometimes the bigger opportunity, because if you can have a stare down with one of the over guys at that company and the crowd eat it up, you've planted the seed in the promoter's head of like,
Sure.
wait a minute, we might bring him back in because did you see the stare down there that they were liking that. Or
Well, the cool about Royals is you get to interact with multiple superstars the whole time. You know what I mean? Instead of having like a one-on-one, like maybe Jordan Jensen versus Cliff Rogers, or like a tag team match where it's 2v2, you can interact with basically the entire roster. You know what I mean? So you get these moments that mean a lot to fans. It's like, you know what I mean? Like they've seen Tamaku come through and destroy everybody. So it's if you get to lock horns with him for a second and show your toughness on that, you know what I mean? Like you're already placed in a specific idea to the fans as to what you can do. So then they're already excited to see you come back and have a full length match against someone you just had a moment with. You know what I mean? So it's all art, man. It's all painting and it's all the colors that you can put on the canvas for people. And that's the cool thing about wrestling, man, is it can have everything in it. It can have the comedy, it can have the drama, it can have the action. You know what I mean? You can have the drama with the stare down, you can have the action with the big pull aparts and like the sequences that you're able to accomplish. You know what I mean? Going from the beginning of the match into the heat, into the shine, into the comeback and the finish and everything. You know what I mean? It's just the more colors you have on your palette, obviously the more experienced you are. You know what I mean? So the way that you're able to 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 basically paint the picture for the audience to where it's not too complex. You know what I mean? Because you never want. It's cool to do an 85 man movement sequence. You know what I mean? But if the crowd can't keep up, if the crowd's not into it, then you're wasting paint. Basically, is what I always call it. You're just wasting time.
hmm Oh yeah, and Hurricane Pro's been around a long time, guys. For all you viewers out there that are maybe new to the indie scene and all that, longevity is key. It's really saying something if an indie can stay around over a decade, and they've been around over 2 decades. So definitely a good promotion to look up on YouTube, Facebook, all that good stuff. Based out of the Beaumont, Texas area, and you'll not only see guys like Jordan, but man, that bring in guys like Ryan Davison, Booker T's head trainer. We just mentioned Tamaku. I've mentioned him before on the show. Just big nasty Islander with a cool mask. I mean, what more could you want there? Then I remember.
You get like or something. Edge Stone's come back, Johnny Lyons, and Jared Wayne. I was actually at the last Hurricane show, and they had some new faces out there. So I mean, Stevie Hendricks has been making a name for himself out of Hurricane. He's an incredible talent. I've actually just met. I don't know if you're familiar with Danny O'Brien. I think he's out of like the Central Texas area, like Austin, San Antonio. I've seen him on like Inspire shows and stuff like that, like on flyers. I've seen him in some of the Houston shows on like the Texas Contender Series for New Texas. But I was incredibly impressed with his match with Stevie Hendricks at Hurricane. Man, they absolutely tore it up. Super glad I did not have to follow that match. That was insane.
That's one of the best parts. That kind of makes wrestling feel a little bit more like a high school team sport or something when you're in the back and you're
Yeah,
watching the boys and you're just like, okay, I can follow that. Come
yeah,
on, we can follow that. Or you're like, okay, yeah, we're not following that. You know what? Let's not
absolutely.
even waste our time with this. Let's just work, work, work. So
Well, I mean, it's always like it's really cool. Like if you can have like an opening match, like at that Hurricane show, it was Hollywood Hendricks and Johnny Lyons, the Golden Lion Johnny Lyons, and they had an incredible opening match. And I'm like, it's always really awesome to have a match like that that opens the show really, really well, really solidly. And then it's like if you can take the next match and just take it to like the next step, you know what I mean? And then the following match takes a little higher, you know what I mean? It's always really nice to be able to match that for the show itself because at the end that's supposed to be the crescendo, you know what I mean? The main event's supposed to get the big payoff. Sometimes it doesn't work out. You know what I mean? Sometimes the undercard guys have an incredibly stellar match, like Stevie and Danny. You know what I mean? Sometimes they steal the show a little bit, and it's a lot harder to follow those guys sometimes than sometimes. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're like, that's a challenge, and then sometimes you kind of groan because you're just not going to live up to it, man.
I remember at my home place at UWE, it was man, like a year and a half, probably 2 years ago now, but our very first triple threat we ever did. And I wasn't in the match, but it was Austin Andrews, we mentioned earlier, is the night that he won the light heavyweight championship. And he was wrestling my tag team partner, the Gatekeeper, and then a guy that came through our school, JT Hanley. He's kind of been, distanced from wrestling for a while. He did a few matches, had to leave for family reasons, and thinking about coming back in. But at the time, he was in good shape and could work, and they went out there and just not much plan, didn't need much plan, and they obliterated it, man. The people were on their feet the whole time, and we're sitting in the back like, oh, that was good. And, we're marking out for them. Then I go to the booker, and I'm like, so, triple threat turned out good, huh? He goes, yeah, y'all aren't touching that. Just go do your best, but y'all aren't touching that. So, yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate it, boss. Yeah.
We're doing this for a second. What we're gonna do? That's
Yeah.
fine.
Well, Jordan,
Matches like that on the card though, you know what I mean? Like anytime I feel like it's a privilege to be in the locker room when you hear a match like that because it's like you just know that the fans just got their money. You know what I mean?
oh,
Like
yeah.
they're paying their hard-earned money to come and see you just play. You know what I mean? And then to be able to reward them like that, even if I'm not in the match, I feel like we've accomplished what we set out to do, which is to put on a good show. Like I understand, like everyone's saying, it's a business. You need to make money. Like if you're not putting on a solid product, like a quality product, you shouldn't be running a show, making money or not. I don't believe that. So to have a match with the crowd unglued, you know what I mean? Like kids are clapping, you know what I mean? The adults are losing it. Like that's a great time. I am super privileged to be on shows like this.
Yeah, that's at the end of the day, that's what our craft's for. We wrestle for the people. We do what we want to do if we can do it. I mean, obviously we want to look good for ourselves, but it doesn't matter if you're on the winning end, the receiving end, if you're the butt of the joke or not. If the people are loving it, man, mission accomplished. You're going to get remembered a lot more for that.
100%.
So, Jordan, go ahead and tell our viewers, man, that may not have heard of you until a week ago or so when we started talking this up. Tell your story a little bit, man. I mean, how'd you get started?
I mean, the tried and true is, lifelong fan. I remember watching like, mid 90s WCW with my dad, like painting my face like Sting and, just going trick or treating and stuff like that. It wasn't really until, I grew up like watching like the first couple seasons of like Tough Enough and like really not understanding a whole lot about the business or like really seeing behind the scenes stuff like a lot of people do nowadays. So it's like, we thought Tough Enough was like the way to get into the business basically. So we were just like, all right, cool, like researching it, looking, and what I mean, like we're 12 and 13, like we're gonna do this or whatever. And I remember I actually went to like a church retreat when I was like 14, like in between my my freshman and sophomore years of high school. And I ended up meeting a local guy there. His name was Chase. We became really fast friends. And in Port Neches, there was a wrestling show, and it's what Hurricane turned into. It was by a different name back then. And 14 years old, man, just went at a at to a local indie show at like not it wasn't a VFW hall. It was a National Guard Armory. And I mean, we paid $10 to get in or whatever, and just had the time of our lives in front of, like there was like 70 fans or something like that, like this little dingy armory. And absolutely had a blast, man. We ended up talking to one of the refs afterwards, and "Hey man, come see us next month," and stuff like that. So we were continuing to come. Ended up in just continuing to go to the shows. And then I think I was like 16. No, I was still 14. Chase was 16 when we tried out. Like the owner thought that because Chase was 16 that I was 16, and it turns out I was only 14. So he was like, we show up, and I'm like, filling out my paperwork, and he looks at the paperwork and he goes, "Ah, man, you're only 14." And I was like, "Yes, sir." And I already paid my tuition for that day, for the tryout, basically. And so he's like, "Well, I already took your money, so I'll let you do it this time." He's like, "But please try not to get hurt." He was like,
Yeah.
if some minor gets hurt on my show, I'm ruined. You know what I mean? Ended up, we went through like a day of training, and we just got absolutely obliterated, man, running the ropes and taking bumps and taking chops and being flipped around and stuff like that. And at 14, I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can do this. I was all skin and bones. I was like 6'2", like maybe 160 pounds, man. I was just a bag of bones, all elbows and knees, just getting tossed around. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this, man. So we ended up, we would still go to the shows and stuff like that, just hanging out. Like, we loved it. Like, Max Muscles was like one of our favorites. You know what I mean? Look him up if you got YouTube. That's a good callback for Texas wrestling. Ended up, I think, in between I graduated high school in 2006, and then immediately jumped in. I just jumped right back in. And Curtis was great. Curtis let us come by. He would let us set up the ring. He said, "If you set up the ring, then I'll train you." And so that's what he did. And then he trained us for a couple months on just taking bumps and running ropes and stuff like that. And he said there was three of us. It was me, Chase, and a friend of ours, Danny. And we all ended up, he goes, "Hey man, I need you guys to go to Houston and see some people out there and take real training from them, and then come see me." So twice a week we drive to Houston, and we were just getting absolutely beanbagged for 6 months, man. They would just run us ragged. The first hour of training was just them running us. We were either doing some calisthenics workout, or we were jogging through downtown Houston in between really sketchy warehouses and everything, man. But I think that they really did that to see how much we wanted to be pro wrestlers. You know what I mean? Because if they'll let us run them and then bump them for an hour after all that, you know what I mean? Like, they've got something that they want to do. We did that for 6 months, man. I maybe 8 months, pushing 10 at the most. And they just came to us and they said, "Okay, man, like, we guys taught you the basics. You know what I mean? You know how to get from A to Z. Now go out there and do it." And with very little oversight, they just set us loose, man. And almost 20 years later, here we go.
Oh man, look, that is the old school or older school way there, because my training was a little more. Well, first of all, it wasn't near as intense as having to run through downtown Houston. I can promise you that. It was more of a thing of we went to Dapper Dan's school at UWE, and it took it real slow with us. He was like, "Look, I'm not trying to get you guys. I know you all have day jobs, because we really, it was a strange thing where you think everybody that's going to go do this is fresh out of high school or maybe hadn't been out of it long." So I was 26. I thought I was behind the eight ball, and
Right.
I get in there, and some of the other guys are 30 and 28 and stuff, and they hadn't had the chance either. So that made it feel a little better. So he was like, "Look, I know all you guys have day jobs, so trust me, you're not going to want to do much, because I don't want to keep you from having to go to work. I don't want to keep you from having to do what you got to do around the house." He goes, "So we're going to do 3 things a day." So You learn the bump, you learn the running, then we learned the tie up, the arm drag, and now my class caught on pretty quick. It was like, okay, sweet, we can move on to the next three tomorrow, and boom, boom, boom. But we would do 3 days a week, and then it once our bodies got calloused, then we could start really, doing some scrimmage and all that, and that went on for about 4.5 months. And the commission in Louisiana is, a little strict, but they were able to allow it to where we could debut a little early just to get used to being in front of people. And
Okay, that's really good.
so they were basic matches, but we thought they were going to be bad. But then as I've gotten older, I'm like, no, you don't have to do a whole lot. Especially.
Ryan's always like Davidson. He's always telling me to keep it simple, man. Every time, dog. I'm like, hey, man, what? Like, I'll come to him with a problem. Like, I'll paint myself into a corner, and luckily Ryan will be on the same show. And I'll be like, dog, like, this is what I'm at. I need to get to here. And he's like, what are you like? Why are you trying to paint the Mona Lisa, man? Like, you just need to paint red, blue, and green. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I get what you're saying. You know what I mean? So don't ever knock yourself because you had what you consider to be a simple match, man. If the crowd loves it, dog, I've seen people get over on Heva. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
yeah.
a video like a couple days ago, uh, the right after we had talked about coming on this show, it was about Ricky Morton, and it was about how over he got just putting on someone's ring gear one time. Like he was in Tennessee, and like the guy came out in like a real, like almost like a Ric Flair type robe or something like that. And you know what I mean? The crowd's booing the crap out of him or whatever, and they're just absolutely hating his guts. Guy takes off his ring jacket, he throws it at Ricky, and starts talking, starts trying to run down Ricky. Well, Ricky just puts the jacket on and starts strutting around the ring, and he like Tennessee is losing their minds. So they're just like loving it, man. But don't ever think that the simple stuff doesn't matter because sometimes it matters the most.
Oh, absolutely. And looking back, I'm glad we did start like that. And that you master this, then you can move on to this, and how our intensity picked up was, once we got through with training and did a few DUWE shows. That's when Dapper Dan was like, all right. I've given you my obligation. You paid money. I trained you. I gave you 2 good matches in front of real people, real paying fans. He goes, now it's going to come down to who wants it. And he's
Right.
like, I'm your coach. I'm here for advice, but I'm not your mom. I'm not going to make you go to the gym. I'm not going to make you get up and run. So who wants it? And then that's when it came down to, like, the ones that really wanted a shot at this and to move on. Nothing against UWE, but didn't want to be stuck in that box forever. Oh yeah, we were packing the Tupperware with the unseasoned chicken and white rice. We were going to the gym twice a day.
Yep.
And then outside of just the physical part, we were these naive. We weren't necessarily kids by years, but in the business we were kids, and we're just guys like Curtis at Hurricane. Hey, sir, how you doing, sir? We really love your product, and he was
Yeah.
actually that was our first taste of outside of Louisiana was going out
Oh,
there to Beaumont.
okay.
Yes.
See, you guys have it a little bit easier than I did because social media is I mean, honestly, now the thing that makes the world go round. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? And when I broke in, it was still being like people were just putting their toes into it as far as using it to market businesses and stuff like that. Like when I was breaking in, like, MySpace was still basically like a college kid thing. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like if you were at school or college or whatever, you had a MySpace and you had your friends on it, and that was about it. But now, like Facebook and Twitter and X and TikTok and all of these social media platforms being what they are, it's so much easier to reach out to people, to see content, to film content, to put it out there. You know what I mean? Like it's so much easier. So I didn't know that that was y'all's first time outside of like a UWE ring. I'm really glad that kind of makes me a little bit proud then, because I'm glad that we were able to give you like a positive taste, because I know a lot of times, you know what I mean? A lot of times those people will take advantage of you. That makes me really proud that we were able to present a good product for you guys, especially like one of your first outings outside of Louisiana.
Our first time going there, we really didn't know what was going to happen. We were just there to make friends, shake hands, and see if we could get a match later on. And I remember Curtis just saw us in there rolling around in the ring with each other, bumping, trying to work on stuff. And he goes and looks at his schedule, and he comes back to us, and he's like, "Hey guys, you want to do a pre-show?" And we're like, "Do we want to do a pre-show?" Yes, So
I feel
he's
like right now.
yeah, really. We were like, "Watch out!" So he was like, "All right, let's just who's the heel, who's the baby? You got okay? Well, yeah, that's easy. Two." He went and put us with one of the vets over there. Was Chris Sindel of the
Okay.
of Blue Collar Crew.
Yeah,
He
blue collar.
he got with us and was our agent on that. He just kind of told us, I mean, no, we didn't script the whole thing out, but it was more of a thing of like, okay, this is the flavor we're looking for here. This is what we're wanting to see, and you guys have 6 minutes, so you don't have to burn through all six, but if you can make it to six, that's cool. And man, we for four guys that the crowd had no clue who we were, we got some reaction, we got some pop, and
Love it.
we and we were the pre-show, so the crowd's still coming in, buying nachos, getting settled, and the announcer gets in there and he's like, "We've got a special bonus match here, a little Louisiana showcase," and then that was cool for the fans. They got a little bonus there for their money. So, and some of those guys, like X Storms and Punk Sinister, they stuck around a while. They actually became somewhat of a regulars for a little while, for at least for one storyline. They were able to come back in a few times.
I with both of them. They were both really solid talents, man. They both have a lot of potential. If they put their nose to the grindstone, they could be real big.
Well, both of those guys have carved out some niches in other states. I know that they both go down to Cocoa Beach, Florida, which is quite a haul. But
Yeah, that's
but
a minute.
dude, that is. I think for you guys in Texas that live over there, it's probably a good almost 24-hour drive if you're going to drive it. For us, it's more like 18, but it's close. Yeah, it's so. I hadn't been down there yet, but I have been to Florida a few times for a little group called Ultimate Victory, and man, I got to tell you, the Florida fans, they love that 1979 AWA stuff, man. They
I
love to
love those
see.
walk and talk. Yeah,
Well, like they want to see some grappling,
yeah.
and then you get to the bumping later. But like they're gonna pop for all of it. I mean they like a healthy blend here, but man, they love seeing that baby face come in there, and like you said earlier, work that headlock, and for like 7-8 minutes, just work the head and the heel trying his best to get out and just can't. They love that, and some places that's, you might get the boring, but not there, man. They love that young Barry Windham versus Ron Bass kind of stuff.
Full match right there, man.
Dude, I'm telling you, they love that just milk it, and then when the heel cuts off, he cuts off hard. That's when you start coming in with the bam, bam, big scoop slam, boom, and then you can throw your modern moves in there, but Florida's a different beast, but it's a great beast because there's just a lot of support out there for it. I mean it's WWE country, so the Performance Center is in the same state, so you never know who might be sitting out there just killing time. You never know what WWE trainee or what WWE superstar might be like. Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing anything tonight. You want to go to this indie show? You never know who might be out there in Florida.
I've seen plenty of pictures where guys are at shows and they're like, "Hey man, do you want to come backstage?" And then they end up doing some backstage, whether it's agenting a match or they're like the special announcer for a match, or you know what I mean. Sometimes they're doing security, sometimes they're cutting tickets, sometimes they're ringing a bell. You know what I mean. Sometimes they're behind a camera. So it never like you can never be on too many shows. You know what I mean? Like you can be on certain quality shows, you know what I mean? Some of less quality or whatever, but you can't be on too many of them. So
that's it. Yeah, you get your reps where you can get it in at.
absolutely, man. The best thing about traveling is going to other states where the culture is not the same as it is in Louisiana or Mississippi or Texas. and they're going to want to see different things. So it's like knowing that the crowd that you're in front of and what they want to see and what they're going to react for is a big telltale of an experienced worker or wrestler. The same stuff that works in New Jersey isn't going to work in Cocoa Beach, Florida. That's not going to work in Houston, Texas. That's not going to work in Phoenix, Arizona. You know what I mean? The same stuff that's going to work in Los Angeles, California, might not work in Seattle. It might not work in, Boise, Idaho. It might not work in Denver. You know what I mean? It's why traveling it's not a necessity. Don't get me wrong, but the knife can never be too sharp.
That's it.
All traveling's going to do is allow you to sharpen the tools that you have.
You got to be able to fit in whatever puzzle piece you might end up falling in. Somebody be like, "Hey, I need you to not do your normal stuff." That's fine. I've done it before in Virginia. I can do it. Where's the furthest you've been from your home state? How far have you made it down the road?
I've been to like Orlando. I've been to St. Louis. I haven't been out west. I've never really gone past El Paso, as far as like westernest. But I've gone all the way up and down the Gulf Coast, all the way into bits of Florida. St. Louis is probably the farthest north that I've been. But like I said, it's really been mostly Gulf Coast, like up to Tennessee, West Virginia, down to Florida, and then back all the way across Texas. I've been all through there.
What would you say your favorite is?
Favorite like area?
Yeah.
There are different eras as far as like how I've worked now and how I worked back then. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
When I was first breaking in, it was probably like the Austin area. And nowadays it's probably closer to Houston or something like that, just because I know the culture there. St. Louis was around the time that I was in Austin, and they had really similar cultures. I really enjoyed meeting some of the boys up in the locker room around then, because they were different. You know what I mean? So probably like first part of my career, I'd say like the Austin scene was really what I was trying to do, and they were really copying a lot of the West Coast stuff as part of like being less technical and more fluid, as far as like not really like the amount of spots, but like how clever you could be with your spots. And if you could take something that was like a tried and true move, like a Texas cloverleaf, if you could put a spin on it to where it was something they hadn't seen before, they loved it immediately, and you'd automatically be over. Austin, like St. Louis, having the same ones. And then as I got older, I started to appreciate a lot more of like the 80s and early 90s wrestling, where it was like much slower, like Bret Hart and Ric Flair. I was watching a lot of those guys, Barry Windham. I was watching a lot of that. And so that was all Texas and Mississippi. You know what I mean? Like all those guys love that style. So I was watching a lot of stuff that you guys were putting out like 5-6 years ago, stuff like that. So I've been really lucky to be around as long as I have, and see as much as I've seen, just because all it does is make me better. Being able to go up to anyone to be like, "Hey man, I know how you wrestle, and I can do this to support you." You know what I mean? And going up to the next guy who's completely different, and then being like, "I know that I can do this to help us right now." You know what I mean? So it's incredible.
Yeah, that's the real prize there. I think when you have your run is everybody wants to make it to a big one of the big three we have here in America, or to somewhere big, maybe overseas or out of country. But the real prize, man, is just the road stories, the pictures, the videos, the stuff you have to pass on, and just being in this little elite fraternity. I say we have, of the pro wrestling family is, that's what it's all about. That's what it's for, And when I got started, I said I felt like I was a little old to get started, but I told him, I said, I'm going to go as far as I can go, as high as I can go, and then when it's over, because this is bonus. I never thought this was going to happen ever.
Sure.
I actually tried to be an announcer first, because I thought that's all I was going to be able to bring to the table, and then I got talked into trying out, and turns out I was pretty decent at it. And then we got pretty good. So, I was like, hey, this is bonus, as far as I can go
Just
with it.
making sounds, bro. That's all you're doing. Just making sounds.
That's it. That's it. Man, tell me, who's some of the people that you've gotten to train with? I know how you initially got trained, but who's some of the bigger names that you've gotten to maybe do a seminar or rub a little shoulder with?
Uh, Man, I've been in locker rooms with guys like Billy Gunn and Matt Cross and Dusty Wolf.
Oh yeah.
Um, I've gotten to share a lot of really cool locker rooms. Like when WrestleMania was coming to Dallas, some of my friends were on some shows around there, so I was with them, just riding around. You know what I mean? Not on the shows, just in the locker room, rubbing shoulders. Like we'd go get food after the shows and stuff like that. So guys like, Kenny Omega and Pentagon, Ray Phoenix, like all those dudes were coming in and doing like uber high quality shows, and we're nobodies. You know what I mean? And just get to shake hands with them and then ask them questions about what I mean? Like how you paint with the colors that they paint with, you know what I mean? Like one of the first guys I'd probably say that I was able to really like sit down and like just annoy, honestly, because he was a good guy and he let me do it. And I was like 19. I think it was Jerry Lynn.
Oh yeah.
And brought in Jerry Lynn and Shark Boy. And that's the old TNA drop right there. And they came out. They were incredibly nice, man. And they could tell we were just marking out, man. We were just young, like we was fresh out of high school, we just getting our ass kicked at training. And we had watched tons of TNA tape, like the triple threat matches Jerry Lynn and Loki and AJ Styles were having and stuff like that. So he just let us annoy him for like 3 hours, and I just bugged him about how do you get from A to Z? How do you get from Texas to Louisiana to Mississippi? Because that was before I really ventured out. You know what I mean? And he was like, just talk to him. He said, if you call the same person every week at 3 p.m., he's gonna know. Every Wednesday at 3 p.m., that's Jordan Jensen calling me. That's Cliff Rogers calling me. You know what I mean? And eventually, that squeaky wheel's gonna get that oil. You know what I mean? So he's like, just be persistent. If he tells you, hey, F off, don't call me again. You know what I mean? Take that for what it is. You know what I mean? But other than that, he's like, just you have to call. You have to sell yourself to get that job. Because that's all wrestling is selling yourself. It's telling everyone, whether it's the announcer, the boys in the back, the fans, the people who are seeing it online, the people who are going to see it later when it's clipped up and put on YouTube and Facebook and TikTok and everything like that. All you're doing is selling yourself to those people. And if you can market yourself correctly, then you'll always have a job.
Yeah, and I learned actually this weekend. Actually, I went down to Mississippi where I've become a pretty good regular over there at a place called Battle Zone, that kind of like a Mississippi version of Hurricane. They've been around 20 something years, and they've brought in some big names and stuff in the past. And like I said, surprisingly enough, not a lot of cowboys in Mississippi. So yeah.
Well, that's to me, man. Well, it's not over there then, dog. I don't know. I don't make no sense to me.
But they ate me up, and I've been fortunate enough to really become a fan favorite. Face or heel, people like seeing me on the card, so I keep going. And well, the promoter is actually a worker himself, and he was working for another group in Mississippi last night. And he was like, "Hey, look," he goes, "You're one of my top guys. Why don't you come in, stay the night at my house? We'll put you up, and come roll out there with me, and we'll see if we can't find you something." And I was like, "Well, yeah, okay." So I go up there and had something, and then last minute they're like, wait, no, hold on, old dude's not going to be able to and stuff. So nothing on me. It's just that's the gamble you take. But I still went out there and put my gear on and sat in the back and of course my promoter friend that I was staying with was making fun of me the whole time. He's like, "Oh yeah, just in case, huh? Maybe somebody will break their ankle walking out to Gorilla." And I'm like, maybe, we don't know, but. But that right there showed the promoters at that show that, like, okay, now I don't have to waste time, or not waste time, but try to remember to look him up later. I can see his look. I can see what he looks like.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. We've had guys like that from Wildcat come and do that. Like when we're taking like promo pictures and stuff like that, they'll just come out and use it as an excuse to shake hands and then get some promo pictures taken. You know what I mean? And so then the promoter's already got pictures of you if he wants to use you. You know what I mean? It's incredibly smart. Never thought about that. And I was like 10 years in when that was happening. You know what I mean? I was like, that's a genius.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's super smart to come out there. And even you can cut a promo. You know what I mean? Like if they've got video footage, you know what I mean? Like you can cut a promo. Hey, this is Cliff Rogers. I'm here at Hurricane Pro Wrestling. I'm here to tear it down. You know what I mean? He's already got footage of you. It's incredibly smart to do that, send it out. Super smart.
And it spoke some volumes to them because they're like, "Whoa, this guy still got dressed. He's not just sitting in the crowd." I'm like, "Well, no." I said, I mean, I'm here to assist, and it led to a future booking. So guys, don't ever get discouraged if you get hit with the big no, because there's something to do back there. There's guys to meet. There's phone numbers to get, and of course, hand yours out. And that happened to me another time, and it led to like two more bookings at different places. They were like, "Hey, man, sucks that they didn't use you tonight, but I think you'd fit in where we wrestle. Let me get your number, and I'm gonna pass it on." And you can never be out there enough.
Look,
and
the more eyes that see you,
yes, that's it. Of course, like I said, everybody wants to make it to the big dance, but you're not going to do that sitting on the couch.
absolutely, man. And I'll tell everyone that ever asks me, "Hey, how do you reach out to promoters?" You know what I mean? It's pretty universal how I reach out. Like, "Hey, I've been around X amount of years. These are my trainers. These are people I've worked." I always like link something of like a match of mine or something like that. And then I always tell people, expect the no the first time. Expect no 99% of the first times that you reach out. Every once in a while, you might get "Oh, that's amazing. One of my guys just dropped out. So and so is already on our card. Like, come on out." You know what I mean? That'll put you over so much better than any email that you could write. You know what I mean? And we always say, like, going into the locker room and being a good person in the locker room, because if the other boys that you're on shows with are putting you over to promoters in different areas, that's the best compliment that you can get, is because a promoter knows that he can trust you to come on and be a helping hand, whether it's setting up, tearing down, being an announcer, being a worker, you know what I mean? Helping with the other boys, you know what I mean? Like just talking to them, whether it's sharing your knowledge with them or getting them out of a pickle, you know what I mean? All that stuff is incredibly helpful.
So, what is some of the most higher profile things Jordan Jensen has done? What's like one of the bigger or biggest shows you think you've ever been a part of? I know it's a long career we're sifting through here, but
Biggest shows I've been a part of. Ooh.
any like dark matches for any big people or anything?
I've never worked for any of like the big three or anything like that, as far as like dark matches or televised matches, being jobber talent or anything like that. I've done like security work and stuff that I mean, it's been ages. You'd have to go back and like super hunt for it if I'm visible at all. But
Yeah.
I've been in security. I've done the catering gigs, stuff like that with all those people, but I've never worked at dark matches with them. Some of the bigger shows I've been on, like being able to be a part of Hurricane Pro Wrestling's like 15th and 20th anniversary shows. Like those were big shows, having guys like Masada, Ryan Davidson, and Edge Stone on those. Getting to work guys like Steve Macklin, who's with TNA. You know what I mean? That's a highlight for me, because when I saw guys like Steve in WWE and saw them be underutilized, like from what I had seen, and then getting to see them excel in other promotions and then get to work with them and then holding my own with them and then being like, all right, well, I'm better than I thought I was. You know what I mean? That was really cool to me. But as far as just biggest shows, some of the Houston shows I was on, or not Houston, some of the Austin and Dallas shows I was on earlier in my career had tons of talent that are in WWE now, like Jordy and Grace,
Yeah.
and team. She was a mainstay in Austin, and I knew her when she was 16, 17, and she was like just taking bumps. And to see
Wow.
her excel and see what she's become, you know what I mean? It's just it speaks to the absolute definition of her wanting it more than anyone else I've seen. You know what I mean? I've seen guys succeed, and I've never seen someone go from what Jordan Grace has done, and that's really cool to be a part of. To see guys, being on shows with guys like Johnny Gargano. You know what I mean? Like seeing guys like that wrestle and then be in the match after him, and then either holding up to the standard or surpassing that. You know what I mean? Being on shows with like Davey Richards and TJP, you know what I mean, from New Japan, from ROH, you know what I mean? Like being on shows with those guys, Kyle O'Reilly. Those have all been really, really cool shows to be a part of.
Man, it sounds like it. I mean, for us indie guys, that is kind of a nut up or shut up moment. When they're going on before you or with you, and you're just like, all right, here's the measuring stick. Let's see how far we can get to it.
100%.
I haven't done any. Well, I say that. I did that rumble with you guys at Hurricane, which was star studded. I got to work with Johnny Lyons in that battle royal. Yourself and Edge Stone was actually the one that eliminated me, which I'm very proud of. Edge Stone gave me a hellacious clothesline, and I went right over the top rope for him. And then, like,
that big teddy bear.
that's the thing. He was like, "Hey, brother, I'm not trying to hurt you." I'm like, "Hey, I don't care if you are or not. I'd see if I can hang with this." And like maybe a year later, if that, yeah, maybe a year later, he is one of the security guards walking Dirty Dom to the ring. And oh my God, we were all watching that together, and we popped. We're like, we know him. He kicked our ass in Texas. We know him.
I was really mad, actually. I was honestly mad because I was watching WrestleMania as a fan, and I know Dom's coming up, so I'm like, cool, this is awesome. I was like, who's that big guy next to him? I was like, that's Edge. I'm mad because Edge is one of my best friends, and so I was told prior. I was like, hey, dude, F you, man. I thought we were better friends than this.
Yeah, where's the tickets, bro? Where's the tickets?
Hey, give me a t-shirt, man. Give me a t-shirt.
And he had actually, I think they made him shave for that, so it took me a second when I saw him all baby faced out there, and I'm just like, is that Vin Diesel? Like, oh, that's Edge. Yeah, man, Edge Stone, guys, he's a phenomenal talent. You need to look up, and if you're an indie fan and you like going to those indie shows, and he's on one, you need to go now because I think it's only a matter of time until he gets scooped right up by the big leagues.
I don't understand how guys like Edge Stone and Ryan Davidson are still out here, man. I think Gino Medina is another good one. When I shared like the ring with Gino, everyone told me how good Gino was. They were like, he's smoothest I've ever been in the ring with. And I'm like, from someone like Ryan's always tried to see like the super positive of people. You know what I mean? So when Ryan's telling me that, I'm like, Ryan's just trying to like put him over a little bit. You know what I mean? And I was like, when I Gino, I was like, I've never been in the ring with someone smoother. It was just his pacing, his footing, his ability to get from across the ring smoothly, effectively, safely, and then to the matches that he puts on are just bar none, like incredible. I don't know how. I know he was signed to MLW for a minute, but I don't know why someone hasn't picked him up yet. So I mean, like that's just three right there. Will Alday is another good one. I think Izzy James is one of the best in Texas right now. I don't know why someone hasn't scooped him up, and that's not me talking up my homie. I think every time I watch an Izzy James match, I'm incredibly impressed. I don't know why people are sleeping on this guy.
Yeah, Texas is one of those places that kind of like in the world of college football, that's a high producer of D1 athletes. It's also a high producer of next level wrestlers, like Izzy, like Ryan, like Edge. Actually, technically, they score one for Louisiana. Edge is a Louisiana guy. A lot of
Yeah,
people.
New Orleans, man. When he got married last year, he was in New Orleans, so we all came down. It's a good time getting to see his part of town. But yeah, he's from you guys, but he's totally Texas, man. He's training at Booker's. You're gonna call him a Louisiana guy? I don't think so.
He was a Wildcat guy first. Thank you very much. Yes.
Oh, man, Wildcat puts on some insane shows, man. I've been to a couple Wildcat shows, man. Luke Hawx is absolutely killing it over there in New Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans is, when it comes to the state as a whole, as a territory, that's kind of like its own little bubble.
Yeah.
It's exclusive, and it's a thing of like, we run, UWE is more central, North Louisiana. You have Bayou Independent, which is like really north, and then more like Eastern, kind of going into the Mississippi part, and they also run in Mississippi as well. So you have BIW and UWE, and then it's like, man, how come y'all never, hear of when Wildcats running and go down there? I'm like, well, because it's kind of a thing. Like, unless you live down there, I mean, the locals love Wildcat in New Orleans, and if you're a fan, you can easily find their stuff on social media. But like I say, it's when you get down to New Orleans, it's like you don't feel like you're in the same state. You feel like you've gone somewhere else.
That like I mean, they're not that far apart, and the vibe between New Orleans and like Baton Rouge is like night and day difference. You know what I mean? And even like to that point, I would say the vibes between like maybe like Baton Rouge and Alexandria are different. Like not, I
Very.
would maybe the day contrast isn't there as much, but like I mean, it's still a different culture, which is cool because you see the same thing in like Houston and Dallas wrestling. Like Dallas wrestling's like really clean, very like very sequenced. You know what I mean? Whereas Houston, a lot of the guys out there being trained with, Booker, or like the new Texas guys with Bulldog Walker and Kiefer Bartek, you know what I mean? Like that's a little bit more rougher, more like not Southern, like walk and talk, but it's like it's way more brawlerish to me. Whereas like Dallas is really clean. So it's cool. And then you get I think Austin's a little bit more Hollywood because they've really the guys over at Inspire, they don't confine themselves in the same box that like most of your pro wrestling shows do. They'll go out, like they're not afraid to take a chance, man. Like they'll do the ladder matches and the casket matches and all that stuff, man. And they'll throw you a curveball really quick just to see if it works. And that's incredibly admirable. Max and Biss out there in Austin for Inspire doing cool. Like they've always done really cool things.
Um, Houston, have you? I'm sure you have the Houston Premier Arena. Have you been in there?
Yeah, man, I've been in there.
Dude, I've worked one show there, and it was for Premier Wrestling Federation, and you mentioned him earlier. It was against Bulldog Walker, and
Yeah.
man, I felt like I was in some kind of underground, like bare knuckle ring. Like, it was awesome. I love the vibe. I love the grittiness. And the fans there, I mean, they're just going to let you have it, man. I mean, you come out there and get your heat, and they're not going to boo. They're not just going to do the boo. I mean, they're going to be like, "Hey, mother," they're just going to start throwing it at you. And I was like, I love it. I love it so much. Their champion over there at PWF right now, Brick Savage, a guy that's really campaigning himself hard to get into TNA. He's been posting all kinds of little mini docs and stuff on YouTube, trying to get himself, saying this is why I should be an Impact. Here's what I can bring to the table, and he's putting all his showcases out there. Man, he'd get out there and just tell the fans, just and then they start chanting it back. The next week you go there, he's got shirts that literally say that on the shirts, and he's selling the crap out of shirts so that people can hate on him.
Brick's an animal, dog. It's like I haven't met Brick. I haven't been privileged, but I mean, I haven't heard a bad word about him said by anyone in the locker rooms. So, I mean, everything I've seen for him from footage has been incredibly impressive.
He is
what
like
a beast.
he's like the human version of a lion in the jungle, because when you watch the Animal Planet docs and you see that the lion's never really in a hurry, he's not walking around flexing his muscles, they're just chilling, swatting at flies. That's because he has nothing to prove. He knows he's the alpha there, and very approachable, very nice guy. I went and hung out with him for a little bit while I was getting ready, and then after my match with the Bulldogs, I was like, "Hey man, if you saw anything on the monitor back here," and he goes like, "Look good, man. I mean, you got your heat. You did this. It was a very approachable guy, but one of the most easygoing people I've been around, because he knows, I'm the champ. There's no reason to walk around and try to, Jim intimidate anybody. He's very easygoing, and I'd love to work with him someday, because I could tell it would just be such a smooth match, because he's not gonna, pester you to death on this, that, and the other.
It's really cool when you see someone like try like their hardest to be inclusive to everyone. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because he's such an intimidating person, like just looking at him, but I know just stories about him, about people talking about him, that he's a stand-up guy. And that's incredible to have in the business. You know what I mean? As someone who is like at the forefront, you know what I mean? Like the 1% of the 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 athletes out there to put on a show, to have that as a representation. You know what I mean? That's really cool when you can have those, like the guys like the Ryan Davidsons, the Izzy Jameses, you know what I mean? Like he'll tell you he's not approachable or whatever, but he doesn't look approachable. But if you talk to him, he's like the coolest cat in the room, man. It's just so yeah, it's really cool to have that represented as Texas wrestling, because Texas is, at least from my perspective, had such a toxic locker room reputation perception, that it was always like just show up, stick to yourself, put your gear on, go over your match, get paid, and go home. You know what I mean? So to have the instances where we're going out to have a drink, or you know what I mean, to go to Waffle House together, not just guys who had a match together, just dudes who were in the locker room and want to have a good time. You know what I mean? Like that, to me, to have that positive representation means everything, because it's just a complete 180 from where we were.
Yeah, yeah, and a guy that's only been in about 3 years here. That's it's kind of crazy to hear because when I started getting some more work in Texas, like you say, all that had been kind of blown past the wayside. It kind of the more positive culture it kicked in. So kind of lucky I got in at the right time. Let's say that. um,
Plenty of guys I know that got in, that had the same reputation, or they wanted to how do I say this? They wanted to project that reputation onto Texas wrestling, and the scene just chewed them up, spit them out, man. And that's a shame sometimes. You know what I mean? But so the cookie crumbles. You know what I mean? Being able to stick around long enough to see the change and be a part of it has been it's been awesome. So can't complain on that.
And it's actually, Texas, Mississippi, and some of the more northern places and western places are very beneficial to people like myself that get a lot of work in Louisiana, because the work can be hard to come by here because we are a commission state.
Sure.
There's rules to follow. There's paperwork that needs doing. There's you got to have a doctor there. So sometimes shows just can't happen, And in Texas, it's pretty much the Wild West, where it's good in the sense of you can just show up with your gear and get a match. It's bad sometimes in the sense of, unless you do your research, any idiot out there that bought a ring from somebody can put on a show. So
Yeah, it used to be a joke in the scene that every tax return season, some idiot was going to buy a ring and start a promotion and have 3 shows and buy a belt and then just run off. You know what I mean? So it's cool to see the guys who've stuck around. You know what I mean? Inspire, MPX out of Dallas. You know, Booker's been around forever with Reality of Wrestling. You know, to see New Texas, I think they just celebrated 6 years. That's really cool to see. You know what I mean? Obviously, guys like Hurricane, Fearless Pro's been around for a few years now. They're a little bit uh, inconsistent, you know what I mean? But they still put on shows, you know what I mean? Now that Loco and Premier have been around for a little bit, you know what I mean? To see the same, all it does is just give the boys another place to work, and that you can never hate on that. Also, I got to shout out RCW. They've been around for a long time too. Brandon Oliver always took care of me when I went to RCW.
that's River City, correct?
That is correct, sir. Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Hadn't I've been invited to that. Hadn't found the time in the schedule to make it down there, but I do plan on making a trip down there in 25 and going and checking out some River City.
No, you're right. AAPW, that was ran by the late George De La Isa, rest in peace. That's always another good one. So honestly, man, so many good places have been around for so long. In Texas, it's really been a blessing. So
So tell the fans now. We've been really hyping up the scene, talking about your career and your background. Some people that have never seen Jordan Jensen wrestle, what are they going to see? What's your style, man? What's your demeanor in there?
man, it's changed over the years, because when I was a lot lighter, it used to be all high fly stuff, man. I used to love to just jump off stuff. Now that I'm older, weigh a little bit more, those bumps hurt on the elbows, the backs, and the knees, man. So most of like a lot of the times now, it's all whatever it takes to get it done. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't need to look flashy to be effective sometimes. You know what I mean? So much more all about kicking you in the face. You know what I mean? Grabbing you by the nose. Maybe tripping you if I need to. But hey, man, a dub's a dub nowadays. I don't care how the column reflects it, as long as they put a W next to my name and give me that check at the end of the night. That's all you need to see from Jordan Jensen, man.
I've gotten plenty of wins using what some people would call underhanded means. I just say, hey, I'm working harder, right? I'm thinking harder than you are right now. That's all that is. Man,
Everyone's always told me my entire life to work smarter and not harder. And now that I'm doing it, I'm being told I'm playing like the bad guy. You know what I mean?
I'm like, hey, no, again, how bad do you want this?
Absolutely, man.
I,
Absolutely. Sometimes it doesn't pay to play by the rules. You know what I mean? So I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty if it means that I'll pick up the W and get a little bit more in my wallet at the end of the night.
I have to wear a knee brace these days, so if one of the metal supports in the knee brace just so happens to fall out and lands in my hand, and then that hand goes across your face, I mean, hey, the ref let me have the knee brace. Blame him.
Absolutely. Yeah, he let me have it, so he did.
Oh man. So man, what do you think's next for? Well, actually, you told us before we cut the tape on. You suffered a bit of an injury here this year, huh?
Yes, sir. Yeah, as we were talking before the camera started rolling here, 2024 started out really well for me, and getting in with TASW, Texas All Star Wrestling, and just hitting their circuit with them, loud and proud, having matches with guys like Nate Bradley, God bless that guy, Estrella Galactica. I was able to have matches with Parviz, the damn, what's the name of the
Pillars of
Titans?
Destiny, is that it?
Destiny, those guys. And then Zarek Camacho and Nate Slater. I've torn it up with Nate Slater a couple times, man, and love that guy to death. But we had there was an unfortunate incident in one of our matches in September where I broke both the bones in my leg and had to have surgery. So dealing with that, I am on the mend. I've been cleared for physical therapy. So it looks like my 2024 is done. And at first, I almost immediately threw my hat into the ring of, all right, I'm done. You know what I mean? Like leg break, that's super serious, need surgery. You know what I mean? I'm going to be out for a while. And the more that I sit with that, I don't know if I can chew on that for the rest of my life, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely not putting my name out of the hat just yet. So you might see Jordan Jensen in a ring in 2025.
Well, everybody wants to go out on their terms. Everybody wants to go out when they're ready to go out.
Yes,
So,
sir.
and my trainer and coach, mentor, Dapper Dan, started in the late '80s with Ivan Putski, and WWA, which was I'm trying to remember exactly where. I want to say it was Dallas. No, Houston. It was Houston. So '80s Houston, which was a different world from what I hear. When you have this big Polish guy that's just jacked and loaded up, and he's your locker room producer. Everybody, it was a much stricter world back then, but he hung in there with the '80s. He wrestled all the best of that day. He wrestled Ric Flair and the Rock and Roll Express, all those dudes. And it goes all through the '90s, and then finally 2007, he had just had enough of it and hung it up. Did some other things, made a lot of money, and then finally, he just had that annoying itch in 2020. Here comes UWE. So that guy there was out of the business for 13 whole years. But just those
It
health.
never really leaves. It never really leaves.
That's it. He was like, I'm just going to get back in and train people and put on shows. And next thing you know, here he is out there working his guys, and then he's working outside guys, and then sometimes he goes on the road with us and gets a match himself. So age is just a number, and we pick up a lot of good healthy habits doing this. You're always gonna you're always gonna want to go to the gym. The gym's never gonna stop. So as long as you keep yourself in shape, No, yeah, dude. I have full confidence that you're going to be back here. Whether you want to or not, your brain's not going to let you sleep. You're going to be like, I got to do it one more time, you know?
Out of the ring, I think that I'll be involved some way creatively, whether it's entrance music-y or graphics or announcing behind the scenes stuff. I don't think I'll ever leave the business, but I mean, obviously there will come a day when I can't wrestle anymore. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But the doctor has cleared me for physical therapy, says the bones are healed. And the more I chew with the fact that this is how I went out in that match. You know what I mean? It just doesn't, it's just, I know that if I don't, it'll probably just eat at me for the rest of my life. And so I've already had conversations with some of the guys about, hey, obviously the window of my career is lesser than what it was 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like there's no hate saying that. But going, like you said, going out on your own terms on something that's going to make you happy is incredibly important to me.
Well, man, I gotta say, as a fan of the indies before, and now as an indie performer myself, you seem to be one of those cornerstone guys in certain parts of Texas, and then of course other states that have kind of really helped change the vibe of things for the better. So, if that's how your career is remembered, that's a pretty great way to be remembered right there, as just as a workhorse that can bring something to the table.
I really appreciate you saying that. That means a lot to me. Thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely, man. No problem at all. And I'll always remember stomping a mud hole and old Jordan Jensen, and then hearing somebody say, "Come on, now don't let Morgan Wallen do this to you, Jordan." That was one of my first tastes of getting outside of home, and I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be rough." Okay, but
Hey man, sometimes a good heckle will catch you off guard, and you're like, "What?"
yes, yes. And I get to the back, and I remember that same night, I'm just like, can't believe that happened. And then, of course, the vets like Johnny and them were back there. Johnny Lyons, he's like, dude, that was classic, man. Take that and run with it. You might want to do that as a gimmick. I'm like, you're right, you're right. Well, you know any of any big events coming up to close out the year? I know that this is actually being filmed on November 10th. Is today? It'll be up later on this week. Yeah, guys, we're not live. But anything that's coming up for the end of 24 that the fans might want to know? Any big indie shows in Texas?
Man, I don't know of any. I haven't really since the break. I haven't really been keeping up with a lot of like the schedules and stuff like that. I would, if people are interested, I would definitely check out Hurricane Pro Wrestling or Texas All Star Wrestling, Reality Wrestling, New Texas Pro out of Houston. I think all of those shows are worth going to. If they're in Texas, if they're more central located, you could look at guys like Inspire. If you're up north and you want to check out guys like MPX, that's always a good idea. DFW All Pro is another good one. One of my friends has started wrestling for them, and he's constantly giving me updates on their shows. I know guys like Exodus Prime and Derek Camacho are up on those. Lou Gotti runs those shows, and he's an incredible talent. Having seeing how he runs the shows is already something about the professionalism that tells me it's something that you could go to and have a good time.
I've actually shared the locker room with two of Lou's students from DFW. We brought them in to UWE a while back now. One of them was, I can't believe she's this sweet for being that vicious, but it's Morgan Mercy. I'm sure you've met her. Oh man, she's an animal of a woman, and I mean that with all the respect in the world. You definitely need to look her up because we were talking about Jordan Grace earlier, and not as stacked as Jordan, but again, Jordan's like part bodybuilder these days. But when it comes to the intensity, oh yeah, she's definitely got some spark there that you
Yeah,
might.
I've seen it. Yeah.
I've seen her do an intergender match before, and she was, or well, not intergender, it was mixed tag, and oh man, both guys on the apron were like, "Yeah, let's just stay out of her way."
They're like tagging in. They're like, no, I don't want to go.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not.
good. I'm
I'm not.
good. And then Demo Diamond, another guy that's really.
Okay. Yes, I know. I know you're talking about. I think I'd seen some stuff with him and Johnny Lyons. I don't know if they were working out together or something, or if they were at the show together. Man, like Demo looks like a really good dude. Very positive.
Well, you're a taller guy yourself. I'm 6'1", which, around here is about the standard for being considered tall. And I'd look up to you. And Demo is about your height. And again, stacked guy, just has tremendous genetics there for the business. So he's still pretty fresh in there. I think he just made year 2. I could be wrong on that, but a very bright future ahead of that young guy there. So Texas, like we've been saying, is a hotbed because when you get in with the right people, the right trainers, and then the right people in the locker room, man, you start just taking off like a rocket, and you don't want to stop that momentum. For others, it's harder, like Louisiana, like I say, kind of a bald spot, when there's not a whole lot of shows. So it takes a few more years to start making those connections. But if you're lucky enough to get trained somewhere with Lou Gotti, like at DFW All Pro or Booker over there at ROW, hang on, because when the momentum picks up, it picks up hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I got trained by Bulldog. Bulldog was one of my immediate, like my first trainers and stuff like that. So just seeing him still kicking and still beating the tar out of people is really fun. He's actually told me he's gonna go. I think he said he's gonna go like another year and some change to make it 30 years exactly. So he told me the last time I saw him at the last Hurricane show in September that he wanted. I'm sorry, it might have been October. Yeah, it was because it was Halloween. He told me that he wanted one more go. So I gotta get healthy and I gotta give that old bastard a beating because gosh, the first chop I ever received in a wrestling ring was from Walker, and oh man, it caved my chest, man. So I gotta give him one back. So I'm waiting on it.
He made it very clear to me and Gatekeeper. It was Desperados versus Bulldogs, and he told us, like, look, whatever you do in there, you better do it. I don't want to see anything pulled, or I'm gonna make you regret it. And we're just like, hey, I think he's serious.
Yeah. A couple summers tagging against him, and I know full well when he says he brings the intensity, he brings the intention. There's been a couple times where I've caught in the slack from my tag team partners' mishaps. Like if he messes up, like he'll take it out on me sometimes. And I'm just like, why? Like I'm not the one. Like,
I was in there with him and his son, Justin Jr.
His family, they're such good people, not just in the business, but just kind-hearted, good people, man. His son, I've known his son, baby Bulldog now, Bulldog Jr. I've known him since he was like 10 years old. You know what I mean? Like he was around when we were training. So to see him actually as a wrestler and to see him like yoked up like he is, man, and he still calls me Mr. Lanky because his dog gave all of his nicknames and mine was just Lanky. So that's what he calls me. Like he's never known me as short. That's what he calls me. So that's all Junior calls me is Mr. Lanky. And I'm like, stop it, man. We're the same now. Like you're in the locker room, man. Stop it.
You got facial hair, dude. You can chill with that.
You have a beard. Knock it off.
I remember we took the W or we took the L in that match, and again, Gatekeeper's got his coming because he left me in there to take the finish, and that crucifix from hell that they do. That's exactly what that is. I mean, imagine Razor Ramon's Razor's Edge, but they each have an arm and they just pull straight down. That's exactly. It's ugly, but it's over, and
it's incredibly effective is what it is.
Very, very. I didn't get to do a whole lot with Senior. Justin got in there. We really just kind of beat the tar out of Baby Bulldog, and then when Big Daddy came in there, he gave us a few things each, and that's all we needed.
Absolutely. Did he give you guys a moonsault? Did he give you one of those?
No, he didn't break that one out on us.
Yeah, lucky star, sir.
Wow. Well, it's always crazy to see guys do that big man magic stuff. I mean, I've seen him work Edge Stone and pull out an enziguri, and you don't expect a super heavyweight, stocky, Taz built guy like that to throw the kick. They catch it, and you're thinking, okay, he's going to shove him up. Oh my God! And
I just saw Edge do Edge Stone, Big Stone Daddy. I just saw him do a plancha where he landed on some guys. He could have easily landed on his feet. He floated in the air. I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. You're big, you're buff, you're good looking, and you're athletic. Like, why? Like, it don't stop. Like,
This
'cause
is
I want
not fair.
but it's absolutely not fair. And then he's like super funny and incredibly charming, and I'm like, I'll kill him. Like, I don't, like, stop.
I'm gonna punch you right in your perfect teeth if you don't stop.
Yeah. He's got this beautiful like $10 million smile, and I'm like, I'll hurt you. Like, he's got all these like awesome looking tattoos. You know what I mean? Women love him, and I'm like, so sometimes it's really deflating.
Yeah, here I am, trying to keep my hair attached, going to the tanning bed, trying to stay looking presentable, you know. Especially when we get to that winter bulk season, man. We're in the season of wrestling where guys are trying to get bigger, trying to stack on the muscle, and your gut's going to grow with all that. So winter shows are hard, man. Winter shows are hard because you're coming right off of Thanksgiving. You're getting out there and you're starting to pudge out a little bit, and then you got guys like Edge that just can't do that even if they wanted to. I mean, the guy could probably go smash a buffet and still put on a 5-star show.
I've smashed a couple of buffets with Edge. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Jordan, hey man, we really appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule. Of course, we wish you all the best with the recovery. And like I say, man, you will be back. I can see it. I can smell it coming for you. And folks, Jordan Jensen is in the magazine, so if you haven't got your hands on a copy yet, you need to do that. You're going to see some excellent action shots in there of him and Estrella Galactica. Just really doing their thing at Texas All Star, and we have some other shots as well that'll be in the next issue. So, Jordan Jensen, you have the distinguished honor of being in we hope's going to be a very long running magazine in the first issue, and you're going to have that to hang on your wall, sir.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much, Cliff. I honestly really appreciate the time to come on here and chat with you. This has been really cool. I don't think I've enjoyed conversations like this as much as I should have. So to come on here with like the appreciation and the generosity that you've appointed me today, I really appreciate that, man. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Guys, keep up with Jordan. Find him online. Go ahead and throw your socials out there. Where can they find you?
Find me on Instagram and on Facebook. It's just Jordan Jensen. That's JOJENSEN with the number 8. Follow me if you'd like. Drop me a line. Hit me on DMs, man. Let's make some really cool content together.
There you go. And of course, you know how to find me. Facebook, Cowboy Cliff Rogers. You can find me on Instagram. I keep it all the same, at Cowboy Cliff Rogers. Let's not overcomplicate things. Just like a match, let's not overcomplicate the handles. There you go. And guys, remember, keep an eye out because Southern Wrestling Hot Topics and News Winter Issue 2025 will be out in January. Y'all have a good one.